Welcome to the Best Family on the Block podcast, where a mother and her two daughters talk about love, life, and everything in between. Episode 3, Childhood Stories. This is just a little warning for those who don't like bodily fluids or different functions of the body. We will be talking about some pretty gross things that happened in our childhood, so just beware. So we are going to start a little segment at the beginning of every episode. We're going to start giving out recommendations. So different things that it could be something we watch, a recipe we tried, or something else. But we all have a little recommendation that we're going to share every week. And so, Morgan, you want to go first?
This week, I've been trying to get back into watching anime. And so I started with Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood because I've already finished Full Metal Alchemist. I don't know if anyone listening watches anime. They're both really, really good shows. They're set in kind of like an alternate universe kind of thing where alchemy is a thing. And it's really cool. It's hard to explain without giving away a lot of the plot. Mm-hmm. But it's a really, really good show. If you're into anime, if you're into that kind of thing, I highly, highly suggest watching both shows. Start with Full Metal Alchemist because it came out first.
What's it called again?
Full Metal Alchemist.
Okay.
So the original Full Metal Alchemist came out while the manga or like comic book-ish graphic novel of the show was coming out still. So it finished before the manga finished. So it doesn't exactly follow it. And then Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood came out after the manga actually finished and follows it pretty closely. So the endings are different, but they're both very, very, very good. Like, highly suggest if you're into that sort of thing.
Is it subtitles or it's in English?
So they're both on Netflix and they are both dubbed. They're dubbed in English. So
okay.
Yeah.
My recommendation for the week is the show called The Great on Hulu.
It's so good.
Is a comedy based on Catherine the Great and how she came to power. And it's really funny. Every time the show starts, it says The Great, and then there's a little asterisk that says an occasionally true story. It has Elle Fanning, right, who plays Catherine the Great.
Yes.
And then Nicholas Hoult plays the Emperor Peter.
Oh, is that who?
And
oh my gosh!
I love Nicholas Hoult. He's awesome.
Huzzah!
Yeah.
Huzzah! They say the word huzzah quite often on the show. When we visited Morgan and Andrew, she introduced me to the show, and we watched, I think, 2 or 3 episodes.
We watched like a couple, like 3 to 4, I think.
Yeah, and I was hooked immediately. I don't know if you were as hooked as I was, but I was hooked. And it's like Luaranne said, it's a comedy, but I almost call it like a dramedy.
Yeah.
Because there is some seriousness in the episodes, but yeah, absolutely recommend it. It's on Hulu. It's a great show. There's only 1 season so far.
No, I think there's only going to be 1 season.
Oh.
Because if you look at the history of Catherine the Great, if you know anything about Catherine the Great, I'm not giving anything away.
Yeah.
The whole coup thing of her coming to power, like, that's what the show is about.
You just got to watch the show, and hopefully there will be a season 2.
We're trying not to give spoilers.
Yeah, trying not to give spoilers. My recommendation is McDonald's coffee. I have become slightly addicted to it. I discovered
obsessed.
Obsessed. We had stopped at McDonald's one morning for breakfast, and I got a coffee from there, and it tasted really, really good. So then it started with me almost every weekend, every Saturday or Sunday morning, I would ask Dad to go to McDonald's to get me a McDonald's coffee. And then now he buys the McCafe coffee in a bag that you can get at the grocery store, so you can make McDonald's coffee at home. And I discovered, because normally when I make coffee, I do 1 Splenda and skim milk. And that's what I put in my tea, because I do drink hot tea every morning. And in coffee, whenever I would put skim milk in my coffee, it would taste bitter. Well, I realized that when you get coffee at a restaurant or at McDonald's or places like that, they put half and half in the coffee.
Yeah.
So then I started putting half and half in the coffee, and oh my gosh, it's so good. because I do not like Starbucks. And I'll apologize to all my Starbucks fans out there. I'm sorry. Probably a minority here. I just don't care for flavored coffee. I don't care for the drinks with the froth and the flavored mochas, and I just don't care. I don't like iced. I don't like cold coffee. So
Whereas I hate coffee. I do not drink any coffee whatsoever.
And then I am obsessed with both hot coffee and iced coffee. I just love all coffee. I am a caffeine addict.
Oh, yeah. But Luaranne, you get a chai, which is a tea at Starbucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the only thing I drink from Starbucks is a chai tea latte.
I will say, as a former Starbucks employee, they do way over roast their beans. And so like just straight up Starbucks coffee, absolutely garbage. And that's what it is, because I don't like flavored drinks or flavored coffee. So Starbucks is like null and void, essentially.
Right. Whenever we would go to Starbucks, their coffee was always bitter.
It's very bitter and acidic and just.
Yeah.
The more you roast the beans, the bitterer it is, right?
So the more you roast the beans, supposedly the deeper the flavor should be. So that's how you get like dark roast coffee. And then blonde roast coffee is like lightly roasted, but they still, even with the blonde roast, they still over roast it to the point where it's burnt.
I just don't care for it. A lot of people like it.
Yeah, I mean, I love Starbucks, but I go for their cold brew. I love iced coffee in the sense of like with flavors. I can't do iced coffee with like Splenda and milk. I have to have like peppermint white mocha. Just have to.
So, and also too, a McDonald's coffee is like $2.
Yes, I will say that.
Compared to
like $6.
Having to take out a second mortgage to get a Starbucks.
Also, will say Dunkin' has some pretty cheap coffee.
Yes, Dunkin' Donuts is good coffee too.
Dunkin' is not popular here. There's one Dunkin' Donuts near us, whereas when we lived in New York, Dunkin' is like end all be all.
Dunkin' is way better in New York or even in the Northeast in general. Getting Dunkin' in Texas is not as good, but it's still pretty good. Like they have this new butter pecan flavored, and I'm obsessed.
As long as I can get a chai latte, I don't care where I am.
So moving on to our topic for today, we're going to talk about childhood memories. Luaranne and Morgan are going to share different things that have happened to them in their childhood. Funny, embarrassing, sad, maybe even. And we're going to talk about them and process through them and hopefully laugh a lot. Hopefully you'll laugh along with us, and we'll get to know each other, or you'll get to know us a little bit more. So who wants to start?
I'll start.
Age before beauty.
Oh, okay.
Or just the oldest.
My first story is not something that I necessarily remember doing, but was told that I did when I was little, when Morgan was a baby. I have always wanted to be a mom. I've always wanted to be a teacher and a mom. Those were like the two things that I would always play.
Yeah.
And like to the point where I would make Morgan sit at a table and I would be her teacher and I would grade her papers.
You gave me homework.
Yeah.
When like trying to learn how to read, you gave me homework of what pages to read in if you give a mouse a cookie.
Yes. Anyway, so back to me wanting to be a mom. So when Morgan was born, I would see my mom change her diaper and nurse her. And I wanted to be a mom too. So there are pictures of me attempting to nurse Morgan, like to the point where my shirt is lifted and I have
you're trying to push her head.
And I'm trying to nurse her. Little did I know, I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't even know what nursing was. But and then there was another time when Morgan was a baby, I wanted to change her diaper, or rather I went up to mom and was like, hey mom, Morgan has a dirty diaper, you need to change her. And you were busy.
It was more like, mom, Morgan pooped.
No, because you didn't know that at first.
Yeah, she did.
Oh.
Or maybe you said that after. Anyway, go ahead and tell your story.
So I went up to mom and was like, you need to change Morgan's diaper. And she's like, okay, I'll be there in a second. And then I came back and said, Mom, you really need to change Morgan's diaper. And then you came and checked on me, and I had opened Morgan's diaper and she had pooped. And by the time you had come back to check on her, she was covered in her own poop and was sitting in it.
Well, actually what happened was, see, this is the fun thing about these stories,
Well,
is I get to tell them what really
the story
happened.
that I remember you telling is that Luaranne wanted to help you because like she was Miss I want to help mom kind of thing, and so she attempted to help change my diaper.
So when Luaranne told me that you needed to have your diaper changed, I was in the middle of doing something, whatever, dishes, whatever it was I was doing, and I said, okay, I'll be there in a minute. And then like less than 5 minutes later, Luaranne is calling from the playroom, Mom, Morgan needs a diaper change. She pooped. So I'm like, okay, I'm coming. And I'm like, what's the big deal? She pooped. I'll change her diaper in a second. I walk into the playroom and her diaper was already undone and not really on her. And Morgan was finger painting with the poop. And Luaranne was kind of like, I tried to help. I tried to change her diaper. Oh, bless her heart. So I didn't know that Luaranne had tried to change her diaper until I went in there and saw the poop. And so, yes, that was a very funny story that we tell Luaranne about all the time. I don't know if it's funny to Morgan knowing that she finger painted with poop.
I mean, I was in diapers, so like probably not even 2 years old yet.
No, you were a baby. Yeah,
exactly. So it's not. I mean, you're a baby. How are you gonna? Yeah. So that's
you maybe were a year old, if that.
Exactly. I think that's fairly normal for 1-year-old behavior.
A lot of these stories are going to be more so about Morgan. I feel.
The funny thing is on how this segues into my first story that I was going to say.
Oh no.
So, as a kid, I don't know if you could tell from the previous story, but I did not care about being dirty at all. No. I would, visiting my grandparents in New York, would go into their garden and play in the dirt, whatever. Didn't care. I would be digging in our yard trying to find worms, and I would put them in a cup.
Maybe I started that for you.
I have to interrupt.
And I would always name them Wormy. I would try to keep them as a pet. Mom and Dad wouldn't let me.
So to interrupt there for a second, one time you were playing in Grammy and Poppy's backyard, and she was great about letting you just dig in the yard. She didn't care. She would just let you, do what you wanted to do. I was always I liked you girls to be clean and neat, and you guys were always dressed. And we were in the house, and Morgan was outside digging in the dirt. And Luaranne, you came inside and you're like, what is Morgan doing? And I said, well, she's playing. And she goes, well, what is she playing? I'm like, well, she's playing in the dirt. And you said, Luaranne, you go, why?
Like, I was not a dirty kid.
No.
Why would anyone want to play in the dirt?
Like, my go-to was spinny dresses and clicky shoes. Yes. I was very much a girly girl.
Yeah, there's a picture of Luaranne after like a dance recital, I think, in Grammy and Poppy's backyard. And she's posing in her like tap shoes and her giant pink tutu. And then you can see me off in the background, just like in a diaper, and that's it, just like laying there. Hair is a mess, and it's like that picture just like emphasizes who we are as people on the inside, and it's great. Anyway, so I didn't care about being dirty, and when I don't even remember how old we were, but we visited our aunt and cousins we visited them when camping together, not too far from where we lived at the time. I think it was like maybe like 3 hours away.
I think you were 12 or 13.
Yeah, I had to have been in middle school.
That old?
Yeah. We were like at least in middle school. I think we were definitely in middle school at the time. And there was a lake like right by us, and so we would go swimming in the lake, and we found out that the bottom of the lake was just pure mud. Yes. And I remember I was just like playing like with the mud, like kind of just like rubbing it on my arm, and then all of a sudden Luaranne and my cousin Ben decided, let's just cover Morgan entirely in mud. So there are pictures of me with a mud face mask, and then my entire body is just absolutely covered in mud. And then it also happened to wash away all of my sunscreen, and I got a pretty bad sunburn that day as well. So
Yes, you did. You also, you just were very, didn't care if you were dirty.
yeah.
You were not girly at all.
Yeah.
And you hated the color pink.
Mm-hmm.
Green was your favorite color from the
It
time
still is. I will say that I have changed a lot since then in the girliness sense.
You've become girly, but you were not girly as a little girl. And you, like I said, your favorite color was green, like from the moment you could form an opinion, and you had to have green everything. So
It was either
if you
green
look back at pictures of
or
Morgan
Woody.
when she was little.
Yes.
She
I was
also
obsessed with Toy Story.
Woody.
Oh yes, her Woody
So much
doll.
well, I guess this doesn't mean you're obsessed with Woody, but when we were younger, our other grandparents, my mom's parents, took us to Disney World.
Yes.
And we were so excited because we had never been to Disney World. I think maybe I was in 6th or 7th grade.
I know for a fact I was 9.
Okay, so you were 11.
This was like as we were moving to New York.
Yeah.
It was,
or Texas,
I think it was
rather.
right
Texas.
after we had moved.
Yeah, it was right after we moved to Texas.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And because I know for a fact I was like 9 when this happened.
Mm-hmm. So we get to Magic Kingdom, we go on some rides, and it's time to meet Woody.
Yes.
And we had built this up because she was obsessed with Toy Story and Woody specifically.
Like, I had a Toy Story birthday party
3
for
years
like
old.
9 years in a row. I had a Toy Story birthday party.
Mm-hmm.
I slept with a Woody doll until I was 17. Gonna throw that out there. I then exchanged that for Andrew's hoodies when we met.
So we're in line to meet Woody. We're excited. Everything's going great. And I think we get to the point where it's time to meet Woody.
I want to interject and say that the line was full of like 5-year-old children, by the way. Yes. And I was this 9-year-old child. So I just want to like put that in there for everyone's like frame of reference.
So I think you were kind of at the age where you almost felt too old
exactly
to be there, or you were embarrassed kind of to meet Woody. So we get up to the line and it's time to meet Woody, and she just like freezes and shuts down, and she's like, nope, not doing it, we're leaving. And my grandmother's like, what are you talking about? No, like, we've waited in this line to meet Woody. Woody's your favorite, like, you're gonna want to meet Woody. And Morgan was just like, nope, not about it. And I wonder if it also had something to do with like someone dressed as Woody.
It was more so
I think it was the embarrassment.
It was the embarrassment.
Being an older
yes
child and all these little kids wanting to meet Woody. And in your mind, you're probably thinking, I really should be over Woody at this point.
I was 100% like that. And then I feel like there was probably some form of anxiety thrown in there as well.
Right.
But I do remember the only person dressed in a character that I have ever actually taken a picture with and hugged was when we went to Hershey Park and I took a picture with a Hershey Kiss. If that doesn't explain how much I love chocolate, I don't know what does.
I think Grandma took a picture. I thought that there was a picture
of you guys. There's a picture of Morgan standing like 30 feet away from Woody. But it's like a picture of her with Woody in the background. Just so that way she would have some sort of picture with Woody.
And I did get a second Woody doll on that trip because mine was falling apart.
And her Toy Story themed birthday parties were 100% her choice.
Yep.
Every year when we would start to plan for her party, I would ask her what she wanted to do for her party, and she wanted a Toy Story themed party. Her Aunt Donna is actually the one who got her first Woody doll. I think you were 3.
I think I was 4.
3 or turning 4.
Yeah.
And you didn't know that you were getting it, and when you opened it at your birthday, you would have thought it was Christmas morning. You were obsessed. Obsessed. So that when she literally rubbed him like raw, because
he has a bald spot on the back of his head. I know.
And his arm, like you slept
his
with
arm
in the
performed
crook of your
surgery
arm.
many times.
Yeah, his arm is like all kind of like busted up and open because the fabric is so rubbed raw. Same thing with his legs. So
yeah, I think surgery had to be performed on him several times. So that's why we finally got you a new one to replace. And then your old Woody went to a place of honor on a shelf in your room for a long, long time before we put him in a box.
Yeah. I have all of them actually. I have Woody, I have 2 Woodies, I have Jesse, I have Bullseye, I have Buzz. I had a Rex. I don't know where that one went, but I had a Rex, but I had those 5 and they're in my my first box, I think.
I think so, yeah.
We as a tradition have a box of all of our like firsts. So like our first pair of Levi's, our first shoes, our first Huggy, our first like, you know, like little things like that, and they're in that box.
Well, do you want to explain what a Huggy is?
Oh, a Huggy is a
it's just like a lovey, like a little blanket lovey.
Yeah, but I think it's originally like a cloth diaper, like liner almost, is what it's originally
it was
for.
A cloth diaper.
Yeah, and we use them as like loveys, like a security blanket almost, and Luaranne would hold hers and she would like rub on it with her fingers and everything, and then I kind of just sucked on mine. Ugh. To the point where they had to take it away from me at like, how old did you take it away from me at?
You might have been 7 or 8 by the time so Luaranne, so I got the idea for using a quote Huggy from my aunt, Lisa. She did it with her girls when they were little. And I love that idea because you weren't attached to one specific lovey. So I had a drawer full of
it was replaceable. Diapers. It wasn't like a teddy bear that had the specific.
So if you lost it, I had plenty more. And so that's what we did with you guys. Well, with Morgan, you had your Woody. So it started with the Huggy and you would suck on it and it was just disgusting because she would put like half of it in her mouth. It was it was gross. And so I always had to keep like plenty on hand so I could take one away and give you a clean one. And then as you got older, then you had your Woody doll. Then you also had your baby blanket. That was actually Luaranne's baby blanket when she was a baby.
Yeah.
We never used it for her. We used it as more of decoration. But then when you came along, we knew you were the last one. We just let you have it. So at one point you had your baby blanket, your Woody doll, and a Huggy. Yes. And you had to sleep with all 3.
Yes.
And when you were finally at about age 7, I'm like, all right, something's got to give. You cannot have all 3. And it was my grand design to get the Huggy away from you. And I convinced you that you would be okay because you had your Woody doll and your baby blanket. And that's how I was able to finally get you to get rid of the Huggy. So we finally were able to convince her to get rid of the Huggy by the age of 7 or 8. And
baby blanket and Woody. The baby blanket and Woody kind of took a little bit longer.
Where is the baby blanket?
In my closet.
Oh, so you have it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's in your closet upstairs, isn't it?
Yeah, it's in my linen closet of like a special blanket that will never be touched by anyone ever because it's mine.
Last time we were visiting them, I went to go find an extra blanket because this may seem weird. Austin and I sleep with separate blankets. We don't share a blanket.
Really?
It's just easier.
I will say me and Andrew did that for the first couple of years of marriage and it was absolutely amazing.
Well, we're both blanket snobs and we both like to be like wrapped in a blanket. Austin calls it his cocoon. So it's just easier for us to have separate blankets. I digress. Anyway, so I was looking through the closet to find an extra blanket and I found her baby blanket and I was like, what? Wait, why is this in here? And I just put it back because I knew it was special and it's also way too small for a human to use.
Yeah.
Well,
an adult human.
Yeah. A baby human could use it. So will you even let your children use it, Morgan?
Oh yeah, 100%. I'll wash it finally, because it probably smells like dust. You haven't washed it yet? I don't think so. It smells like dust. I'm pretty sure.
Well, it's been sitting in our closet for
4 years at least, probably longer than that. But yeah, I'll definitely let my kids use it 100%.
So back to me being a girly girl. When I was little, I loved to dress up again in spinny dresses and clicky shoes. So we were at my grandparents' house when we lived in North Carolina, and I had taken a white blanket or sheet or something and put it over my head and pretended it was a veil. And did I have flowers in my hand? I had something.
No, I don't think you had flowers in your hand. And
I just held the blanket closed.
Yeah, you held the blanket closed around your like top. part.
I think
You
the
held it around your
veil,
chest.
your quote veil was an actual like
I thought it was a
piece of-
huggy.
No, it
No.
was, if I remember correctly, it was like actual veil material.
Like
A
tulle.
tool.
Yeah, that tool that grandma must have had, and I don't know, but your gown was actually a blanket wrapped around you.
Okay, so I had dressed up like a bride and made my mom sing
Here
Here
comes the
comes
bride.
the bride, all dressed in white. And there's a video of us doing this, and she just repeats herself over and over and over and over again because I kept asking her to do it because I kept wanting to walk and act like a bride.
Well, part of it was because you were going to be a flower girl in your aunt's wedding,
So I was practicing.
and you wanted to practice. And so we used to go to your grandmother's house. We lived in an apartment at the time, and we didn't have laundry facilities. So we used to go to grandma's house like once a week, and I would do my laundry, and you guys would play with grandma and grandpa. And so this was one of those visits, and you were obsessed and made us do it over and over and over and over. And to the point where I was like, all right, I'm tired of singing. And you're like, no, do it again. Oh my gosh. Yes, you were very, very girly. And I used to dread the day when we would go dress shopping for you and we couldn't find a dress that would spin.
Yep.
Because that was how dresses were rated, is if they could spin or not when you were little.
A lot of my early childhood memories are at Grandma and Grandpa's house.
Yeah, well, we spent a lot of time there because we lived maybe 10 minutes away. And because the first year that we lived in North Carolina, we, like I said, lived in an apartment and didn't have laundry facilities. So she would let me come over and do our laundry at their house. And that's where Morgan discovered the Disney Channel. And because my parents had the Disney Channel, we did not. And you were obsessed with all the shows on the Disney Channel. And my mom actually made a videotape.
Like a VHS tape.
This was back in the day of VCRs.
You had to record
Some
your
of you may
shows on the
not-
VCR.
Yeah, some of you may not know what a VCR is, but so she would record all of your favorite shows so that I could take them home and you could watch them at home whenever you watched. Yeah.
We also, she would babysit us sometimes, or we would just go over there without mom and dad. And they had an exercise bike in their spare room. And Morgan and I would sit there and watch movies, preferably either Rookie of the Year or The Borrowers were our top two.
Or no, Angels in the Outfield and Angels in the Infield was another two favorites that we watched.
Also those. And so we would sit on the exercise bike, and it was orange, wasn't it? It was like a burnt orange.
Yeah, it was like an orange.
Like a, not coral. It was like an in-between coral orangey color.
I remember it as like the UT colors.
Yeah, so kind of a burnt orange color.
Yeah.
And so we would sit on the exercise bike and watch movies in the spare room or play.
Both of you would fit on the bike?
No, we would take turns.
Oh, or fight over who got to sit on the bike?
Probably, but I don't remember fighting over it.
I don't either.
Oh, funny. So Morgan, you want to tell another one?
Another story that I actually don't necessarily remember, but am told about it constantly. It was probably the day before first grade. And
I know what story she's about to tell.
I had this habit of waking up in the middle of the night or not going to bed on time and sneaking into the bathroom and either playing with toothbrushes or whatever, because I had this.
So Morgan was the kind of kid who didn't need toys to play with. She liked playing with little trinkets and tiny little things, and they didn't have to be quote unquote toys. Like there was one time when she was little, she stole my father's wedding ring and was like Gollum and wouldn't give it back. Like she's like,
well, okay. So to tell the backstory on that, she was maybe 2. And we were, oh no, you were older than that. You were probably 4. maybe 5. I don't know. But Daddy lost his wedding ring, and he couldn't find his wedding ring anywhere. We looked everywhere for this ring, or the entire house, top to bottom, could not find this ring. You girls both knew we were looking for Daddy's ring, like could not find the ring anywhere. And one day I was doing something upstairs. I was cleaning the bathroom. So yeah, I think you were too. I was cleaning the bathroom, and I hear this clinking sound in the playroom. And I know all their toys are plastic. So, and it was a metal clinking sound. And I can't imagine what is making this sound. So I walk into the playroom, and she's playing with her dad's wedding ring. And I said, Morgan, that's Daddy's ring. And I swear she was Gollum from that movie and was like, no, mine, and wouldn't give it to me. And threw the biggest fit when I took it from her. And I kept trying to tell her that it was Daddy's ring. And she was like, no, it is mine. And in her mind, she found it. It was hers. Oh my goodness. You were something.
Yes. But yeah, so I probably like snuck into the bathroom to like play with the toothbrushes or something. And I found my dad's razor. And
well, you used to watch Dad shave his face.
Yes.
You were obsessed.
So I was like, well, Dad shaves his face, so I'm going to try and shave mine. But the only hair I had on my face were my eyebrows. So I managed to shave off my eyebrows the night before the first day of school for first grade. I also remember like running my thumb across the razor because I wanted to see how it felt. And I had these like giant, like 3 giant slits in my thumb. So I quick grabbed some like some toilet paper, and I like held my thumb while I was sleeping that night because I didn't want it to like bleed all over the place.
Again, this is the middle of the night where everyone else in the house is sleeping.
Yes. Also, Morgan and I shared a room. We had bunk beds, and I had no idea.
No, this was when we had different rooms. You kept the original room, and I moved into the playroom at this point.
Oh. So, Mom, do you want to share how you found out?
So it was the next morning, and I'm getting the girls ready for school, and I saw the cuts on her thumb, and I was like, what happened? And you were just like, I don't know, I cut it on something, and you said you didn't remember or whatever. And I'm like, oh,
Meanwhile, Morgan was like a white blonde-haired kid. Like she had white blonde hair.
Right. So I didn't notice her eyebrows right away because her eyebrows were blonde, but I noticed something was off, like something didn't look right. And I'm like, and in my mind, I'm going, what? Something's weird. Something's off. And then all of a sudden I realized, and I went, oh, you shaved your eyebrows off. And she got a little bit like startled, and I said, why would you do that? And she said, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay, it's okay. And I'm thinking, oh my God, it's the first day of school, and she's going to school with no eyebrows. Oh my God. And so I'm like trying to be calm because I didn't want to freak her out. And I was like, it's okay. They'll grow back. And then Luaranne, in true big sister format, goes, well, they might not. And that freaked you out, Morgan, because you were like, what? They might not grow back. And you got hysterical. And I'm like, Luaranne. But yes, that was, I don't know why. You never cut your own hair. Luaranne, you did. You cut your own hair when you were
And I cut all my doll's hair.
2 weeks before your cousin's wedding. You were a flower girl in her wedding. And actually not your cousin, David's cousin. So I was freaking out, but fortunately the way you cut it actually didn't look that bad, and it wasn't super noticeable. Mm-hmm. So we were able to work with it. But yeah, you guys always cut your doll's hair. Your dolls never had clothes on.
I remember my Chelsea doll was forever naked.
She had like a baby little Cabbage Patch doll. It was like one of those teeny tiny ones.
She loved to play with teeny tiny things. Polly Pockets.
Littlest Pet Shop was another one when I was older.
Yeah, you were hard to punish because I couldn't just send you to your room because you would start to play. And even if I took every single toy out of your room, then your fingers would become toys, and you would go into this little universe or world, and you would make believe and pretend you had a really good imagination when you were little, to the point that sometimes I would have to ground you or punish you by making you sit on the couch in the living room on your hands. Because otherwise, because I would send you to your room or send you, into another area for timeout, and you were so quiet that I would forget you were there. And an hour later, I'd be like, oh crap, Morgan's still in timeout.
So back to me being a flower girl. It wasn't my first wedding, was it? With the dark green dress. So the first time I was a flower girl, I don't remember the wedding really, but I do know that. Okay, yeah, I was young. But when I was flower girl during the reception, so there's this picture of me asleep on like a little stairwell. And the story behind the picture is the photographer paid me $1?
No, it was and I think it was David's aunt so to get you down the aisle, David's aunt had a really good idea of having a 50-cent piece or a dollar, but it was the coin dollar waiting for you at the end of the aisle. That was how we got you down the aisle, was this shiny metal coin.
Because I was 3.
Because you were 3. And so you would have done anything for another quote dollar. And I guess that's what she did, is she got the photographer to take a picture of you to make it look like you were sleeping, but you were holding a coin. And I thought you had actually fallen asleep when I got the picture. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's such a cute picture.
Everyone thought I was actually asleep, but I was pretending.
All staged. She was a good actress. And we got you to smile for the pictures for the photographer by giving you M&Ms. Every time you stood and smiled for a picture, you got an M&M. Hey, it worked.
Children are easily brined.
You were really good.
Yep.
She was. You weren't.
So I have a story about Morgan, and she may or may not approve me putting this in the podcast. But when we were younger, so Morgan took a little bit longer than some children to potty train, and she didn't love going to the bathroom because it wasted her time. And so you'll find out in just a second. So we were in the playroom. So we had a 3-bedroom house with one bathroom. And we were in the playroom, and Morgan and I were in the playroom. And we were watching some show, or maybe we were playing we had a PS2 or something. We played Bugs.
I thought we played
the PS2.
A fish game.
Maybe. Anyway, so Morgan's sitting there and she needs to go to the bathroom. But she doesn't want to go
I remember
to the
this.
bathroom.
Because it's actually different than what you think.
So she didn't want to go to the bathroom because she was doing something, right? And so she didn't want to have to get up to go to the bathroom because she was busy. So she had a container in the room where we had like eaten popcorn or something. And she had decided, instead of going to the restroom, that she would just use the restroom.
I don't remember this at all.
I do. And I remember watching you and being like, what in the world is she doing? And I don't know why. I guess I thought I told on you. I thought I told Mom, but Mom doesn't remember this either.
I don't remember this at all.
I don't know what happened to the container afterward.
What I do remember is peeing in the dress-up box that we had. Yes, okay, but the reason I did it, and it was a very valid reason for someone of my age at the time, I had a dream that I peed in it, and so I was like, well, it was a dream, that means I have to do it, right? And so I did.
That's a valid reason for
Wait, were there stuff in the
It was all of our dress-up clothes.
So what happened to...
Yeah.
I watched them on the regular, so I was
in a lot of trouble for that, because you got mad at me. Yeah, I remember that. I got in a lot of trouble, but I was like, it was in my dream.
Oh, I have a good story about one time that I blamed you for something that you didn't do.
What?
I think
now we're getting juicy.
I think this was when we first moved to Texas. Or maybe we were still living in New York, but it was fresh, we were about to move or something. I don't know. No, I think it was Texas because Mom, you had gone back to work.
Okay.
So before you left for work, for some reason, Morgan and I were obsessed with eating peanut butter out of the jar. And Mom had told us, do not eat the peanut butter out of the jar. If you want peanut butter, you need to like make a sandwich or something. So me being me who didn't want to listen, I decided to take a knife, like take a spoonful of it and eat it anyway. And then I thought I was being slick by putting it in the dishwasher, because growing up, Morgan and I like never put dishes in the dishwasher. We put them in the sink and not the dishwasher anyway. So I put the knife in the dishwasher, and then Mom, when you got home to load the rest of the dishes, you saw the knife in the dishwasher, and you saw that there were like little teeth marks scraped across the knife, and you automatically assumed that it was Morgan, and you go, did Morgan do
this? That's something Morgan would have done.
Exactly. So you go, did Morgan do this? And I was like, yeah. Morgan got spanked for it.
Did she really?
Yeah, she did. Anyway, but it was me, not Morgan. And I will never forget that, because I felt so bad afterward.
But you never came clean?
No, because I knew I'd get in trouble.
You couldn't have felt that bad.
Well, I'm telling you now.
Oh, Lord. Well, Morgan also was, going back to like the pottying thing, she was really hard to potty train. Most kids potty train by the time they're 2.5, maybe sometimes 3. And Morgan was 4, like 4.5 by the time she finally potty trained.
Yes, you did.
But not because
that was a large reason, was because I wasn't like super potty trained at the time, and then also you didn't want me and Luaranne to be super close in grade levels.
So in New York, the cutoff is December 1st, whereas in Texas, the cutoff is September 1st. So I'm in December, Morgan's in October. So when her birthday came around in October, she could have gone to kindergarten at 4 years old, turning 5 in October. But my mom wanted to hold her back one more year just to give her a little bit extra time.
Well, it was a lot of reasons. It was, number one, you were not as emotionally mature as your sister was, or as somebody going to kindergarten. And I just felt that having you be home an extra year would be better for you. And I didn't want you guys only a year apart in school, because I thought that could make things difficult moving. You'd have similar friend groups.
Right.
And I just didn't want there to be competition between the two of you. So I thought having you guys 2 years apart in school would be better. And because of your emotional maturity, I was concerned about you being able to sit in a classroom, and actually pay attention. That, and the fact that you had just potty trained a few months prior. And I talked to your teacher, Luaranne, about Morgan starting kindergarten. And her advice to me was, you can never harm a child by holding them back a year, but right. You can harm a child by sending them before they're ready. Mm-hmm. And for me, that was like, okay, that's all the information I needed. So that's why we held you back, Morgan. And you actually started school 5, turning 6, which you were still within 100%, the normal age range for kindergarten.
Especially then when we moved to Texas, because the cutoff was September, not December.
Right. So going back to potty training, so as we had mentioned on our first podcast about transition and change being really difficult and hard for Morgan, we were in the middle of potty training when we moved from North Carolina back to New York. And so she regressed significantly and would not poop on the potty. You would pee on the potty most of the time, but you would not poop. And so I would have to put a pull-up on you for nap time. And then as soon as I would put the pull-up on you, you would poop. So that, it was really frustrating. And then I would try to not put a pull-up on you, but you could hold it for days. I don't know how. And then I would get worried about you getting impacted or compacted or whatever you want to call it. So then I would put a pull-up on you so that you would poop. It was a nightmare. And I remember Daddy one time taking you into the bathroom, and you and him were in there.
Is that the time that he fell asleep?
Yes, he fell asleep on the floor. And we were outside and I come in and I was like, where? And I open the door and Daddy's asleep on the floor and you're sitting on the toilet playing with Play-Doh because Grammy, your dad's mom, would give you like Play-Doh to play with while you were on the toilet or books to read while you were on the toilet, hoping that you would get distracted and your body would relax and then you would go.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't work. What finally worked was Morgan's favorite show was Bear in the Big Blue House that was on the Disney Channel that she was introduced to at Grandma's house when we lived in North Carolina. And you loved that show. So Grandma would make you tapes of Bear in the Big Blue House so you could watch it. And I don't know if Grammy found the video or my mom found the video, but somebody found a potty training video that Bear in the Big Blue House did.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what finally
I actually vividly remember this.
And the whole video, the whole video is about you listening to your body and all this listening to your body and
like the signs your body tells you when it's ready.
Right. And you were watching it one day or something and Grammy was in the living room with you and you must have made a look on your face like, oh, I gotta go. And Grammy said to you, Morgan, what is your body telling you to do? And you went, my body's telling me to go potty. And you ran into the bathroom and you went on the potty and then that was it. You were finally potty trained. That was finally what did it.
So when I was older, I was in high school and there was a trip that my parents went on. And Morgan, I guess you went with them, didn't you? Because you weren't at home.
Oh, yeah, I think we went camping.
Okay, so they went camping and I stayed home.
Exactly, to watch the dogs, and you were probably also working at the time because you were like, oh, I have to work. I can't go camping with you guys.
Yes. So my best friend and I had the bright idea to throw a party because, we're in high school. Why not, right? So we have a party and it really wasn't like when you think of a high school party, it wasn't like that. There was maybe 8 of us total there, but there was underage drinking, which I do not recommend.
Drugs are bad, MK.
So we're there. And so my best friend is dancing in the corner because we're playing music and we're having fun. And
he was also, you guys were really big into country.
No, dancing. He wasn't dancing the country music.
Oh.
So this was like hip hop. So we're dancing to music. And so my parents had this like built in their living room, but it was empty. Like there wasn't any shelves. It just had these CD towers. And there were these CD towers that looked like houses or like apartment buildings or something.
They still have them, by the way.
My friend, yes, they do still have them. So my friend is dancing and he falls over and knocks into the CD towers and it puts a huge hole in the wall, like the size of a fist. And so we just pick the CD tower up and leave it there. And my parents never knew where that hole came from. They didn't even know that there was a hole there.
I actually have a similar story about a hole in my wall where I was extremely angry at probably mom or dad and was throwing a fit in my room and was kicking the wall and hit part of the drywall that wasn't like a wood beam there. And I kicked a hole in the wall, so I just covered it with a Justin Bieber poster. And Dad didn't know until we were moving, and he got really mad at me.
Oops.
Yeah, because
so
back to the house.
So back to me throwing a party without my parents knowing. So there was also a friend there, another friend, who had too much to drink and had gotten sick. Well, we didn't know this, but this friend had gone up to Morgan's room that was not clean and thrown up in her room. Like,
yeah, you didn't know this?
On her clothes and shoes. And I remember having to clean this up and they were like Morgan's favorite pair of shoes. Morgan lived in Vans.
Wait, how did I not take those camping?
And I don't know.
Probably because you didn't want to.
They might have been new.
When we
No, I
Oh,
think
that's
they were
probably
the
why.
old
They
ones.
might have been the Converse skater shoes that I wore before I changed into my Vans.
So she had thrown up all over, not all over Morgan's room, but like she had thrown up once in her room.
Why did she go to
I
Morgan's
have no clue.
room?
Maybe she thought it was my room and she was going to lay down. I don't know. So we then put her in the bathtub and like hose her down in the bathtub, and I'm cleaning Morgan's room.
Yep.
And Morgan never knew. And I didn't tell Morgan that we had done that until I was like in
You
college.
didn't tell me until
much
like
older.
at least 2 years ago.
Yeah, like recently. And then you told Mom
Yes.
right after that.
Totally ratted you out.
And Mom had no idea.
Was this
that any
also
of
the
it
same
happened.
time
They
that
didn't
you
know how
and
the
your
whole
other
got
friend
there.
dyed your hair while we were out?
But you
dyeing
knew
your
I was
hair?
doing that.
No, because remember,
Yeah.
because Mom said no one's allowed over, and yeah,
Oh.
you got
And I
pink dye all over the
dye all over
bathroom, and
Yes.
I ratted you out then because I was like, Mom, there's pink hair dye in the tub.
I was more of a wild child than I let on sometimes. I think.
I don't think you were that
Yeah.
wild. I mean, you did, in my opinion, you did
Normal
things
teenagers do.
right. I mean, that's not uncommon for a
But any
teenage.
other time that we had alcohol or did anything, you knew,
Right.
and you knew where we were, and there was always an adult there that either
Right.
took our keys or made us stay there. Like we were never, the only time that we ever did something like that where there weren't any adults was when I threw the party at the house.
Yeah, lovely. Of course, I'm the one that. Ugh. Well, because your best friend, you used to go to his house, and I always knew that you were drinking, but his mom was always really good. She would make sure that, she collected everybody's keys, and if you were going to drink, you spent the night.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, we weren't allowed to leave.
Yeah, but you never got like
you never got drunk ever.
drunk
I've never been drunk to
in
this
your
day.
whole life.
I'm 26 years old, have never been drunk. I've been tipsy,
Yeah.
but never like blackout.
I've never been
drunk.
blackout drunk, no, but I have like gotten so drunk that I had to throw up. That was fun.
Yeah,
How was that fun?
I think she's
No, I
being
wasn't. I was
sarcastic.
actually like, I had a great time that night. That was like one of my favorite. Yeah. I don't understand how, but I just like really enjoyed that night because I was having so much fun with all of our friends.
But then you get sick. To me, that's not
I don't know.
fun.
Everyone's
Nope.
Yeah, everyone's different.
Yeah.
Speaking of vomiting,
Yes. Okay.
trigger warning. If you're not okay with bodily functions, don't listen to the rest of the podcast. So when Morgan was a child, she went through this
There's
phase.
a lot of stories about Morgan.
I told you this podcast is going to be mainly about Morgan. So when Morgan was a child, she went through this phase of randomly, she would get sick like once a month for no reason. It
And we
wasn't
never-
a stomach flu. Like there was nothing wrong.
I think at this age, a lot of it was I was eating and or drinking things that probably didn't agree with my stomach, and my body's immediate reaction was just throw up.
But you weren't allergic to anything.
No, so like it was more so like I love to drink milk at this time, and I would actually leave my cup out and to where it would get warm, and then I would still
Ew.
drink it. And I think that's a lot of what was going on is I was just drinking.
Gross.
Yeah, I was drinking left out milk, and that was what was making me throw up. And then also eating Gushers for breakfast was not a good idea either.
I am learning so much today.
In my parents' defense, Morgan and I would wake ourselves up to get ready for school. So, because my mom and dad both worked and they both had to go to work really early. So Morgan and I had our own alarms where we had to get ourselves dressed and ready
Okay,
to
but
go.
not at the age when she was getting sick. She was young.
Yeah, I was
Oh.
very,
And I
very
was-
young.
Then how did
And
you
I
have
was still-
Gushers for breakfast? Did you sneak
She
them?
probably
I
would
snuck
sneak it.
I snuck them because I remember I was still sitting in a car seat at the time
Yes.
that this happened, and we were on our way to Grammy's house, and I think it was either I threw up on the car seat or I threw up in the toilet before we left, or right when we
seat.
got there.
I hate
You
to
never
tell
made it
this,
to the
Morgan,
toilet.
You never made it to the
No,
toilet.
but it was
Never.
very distinctly red because it was red Gushers. I don't.
Don't, ew.
We had a
did
trigger
give a
warning.
warning. We did give a warning.
So I am scarred for life because of Morgan vomiting all the time. Like okay, yes, I'm a teacher. I teach second graders. And guess what? Second graders throw up and they don't make it to the toilet. I cannot handle it. If someone throws up, someone else has, like, thankfully our custodial team will come and clean it up. I cannot deal with vomit. I myself don't throw up. When I throw up, I am a big baby. I can't handle, like, I am scarred for life.
What about when you have children and they throw up? Is Austin just gonna
my husband's gonna have to do it.
Well, I was the same way whenever there was vomit involved.
So
I would walk away and Daddy had to clean it up because I couldn't handle it.
there is one particular reason why I am so scarred.
I apologize in advance to everybody.
My grandparents had or have a condo in Puerto Rico, and we would go there once every few years
For spring break.
And yes, for spring break, and we would go and we would be on the beach, and it's Puerto Rico, right? So we went out to dinner one night, and Morgan had like 4 baskets of garlic bread, and we kept telling her,
because she
don't
had
eat
a
too
sensitive
much.
stomach.
Yeah, we were like, don't eat too much, it's gonna make your tummy hurt. And she used to call it her stomach being swirly. So
I'm having
flashbacks.
Yes.
So we get back to the condo, we go to bed, everything's fine. All of a sudden, oh, and Morgan and I had to share a bedroom because it was a 3-bedroom condo. So my grandparents had the master, then my parents had the spare bedroom upstairs, and then Morgan and I had the like screened in porch
Sunroom.
room, the sunroom that had like a pull-out couch. So we had to share a bed. So in the middle of the night, I wake up to the sound of liquid dripping off the bed. And then all of a sudden I'm overwhelmed with the smell of garlic. And so I'm like, oh my God, it's in the bed with me. It's on the floor, and in my like half asleep state, I didn't know how much there was. I didn't know where to move. I was like, if it's on the floor and I step in it, I'm gonna throw up. Like, what do I do? And so I remember doing these like ninja jumps across the room to try and get to the door to make sure I didn't step on anything. Now, meanwhile, it really wasn't as bad as I thought it was.
No, it wasn't.
But so I get out of bed, I jump to the door, run to my parents' room, and I'm screaming down the hallway, Mom, Dad, Morgan threw up in the bed.
So she proceeds to wake up the entire house.
So this is another thing is I would, in this time period, I would consistently get sick in the middle of the night, like wake up, throw up, and then go back to sleep and not tell anybody.
And roll over.
Yeah, she never came and got us when she'd get sick, ever.
Yeah, like there was a time where she had gotten sick so many times, she slowly moved to the door.
Yes.
Because she would just move to the next location that was clean. And then my parents went to wake her up the next morning, and they couldn't open the door because she was blocking it, because that's how many times she had gotten sick.
Yes.
Anyway, so we woke up the whole house. Everyone's awake now. There's vomit on the floor, and they have to clean the mattress and everything. And
okay, except the funny thing is, there wasn't a lot of vomit on the floor.
It was still scarring.
She had gotten sick in the bed. Yeah, and, you know, bless her heart, for whatever reason, she just never would fully wake up. She would just get sick and then go right back to sleep.
I mean, thank goodness you would not like sleep and throw up and then like suffocate.
Yeah. Oof, that would not have been good.
Yeah. But a lot of things happened in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, this segues into our Puerto Rico stories, because all of the rest of mine are, I think, this one trip in Puerto Rico.
I have one more story that's not Puerto Rico, but we can tell it later.
Okay, so to start off, when I was probably around like 12, 13 years old, I finally got my period, whatever. For some reason, every single time that we saw Grammy, I would be on my period.
Dad's mom.
I would always get my period every single time that we saw her. For some reason, it just always happened that way.
And Morgan was always really pleasant when she was on her period.
I am a very emotional.
Sarcasm in that voice.
I'm a very emotional person, and at that time, I didn't know how to regulate my emotions. And also, then being on your period and PMSing, I was just even worse. So that was a fun time. And so we were in Puerto Rico for spring break, and I happened to get my period as usual. And I don't know which comes first, so I'm going to tell the gross part last. So
we're gonna lose followers.
So
maybe I should move the warning to the beginning of the podcast.
So we're our tradition every single time we go to Puerto Rico is we would go walk through Old San Juan, and we would visit the fort that's there. We would get Ben and Jerry's. We would walk around, and it would be really fun. And we're walking around. I'm not having a good time. I am not the happiest of person. I am being mean.
And ruining it for everyone else.
First of all, it was within the first 5 minutes of getting to Old San Juan.
Yes.
Like literally we had gotten out of the car and it was the four of us and Grammy.
Yeah. This is also,
and you were a real bleep.
This is also probably like what, the third day that we're there or something like that. It was like in the middle of the week. And so my dad had enough of me. So he storms off to the nearest like CVS corner store, buys me Motrin and a Monster, this is the first time I've ever probably had a Monster by myself because I would always just try my dad's. And 5 minutes after taking medicine and drinking caffeine, I am then skipping down the road. Completely changed.
It's the caffeine.
Yes. And
it was magic.
And this segues into my now addiction to Monster energy drinks.
Well, and anytime she had ever had her period, we would always give her a Monster because it worked better than any medicine. Mm-hmm. And now it's just a joke of if Morgan's in a bad mood, you just gotta give her a Monster. And she'll be fine.
Like chocolate and a Monster. No, he got you.
It was a Hershey's chocolate bar, Motrin, and a Monster.
You a chocolate bar, ibuprofen, and a Monster.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And it was that trifecta that cured you for the day, and you were pleasant to be around. And I remember Grammy being like, just completely shocked at the 100.
She's drinking a Monster right now.
I love Monster so much. I get a 24-pack shipped to my house monthly.
Oh my goodness. Sounds like you have a problem.
I have a caffeine addiction, and I accept that, and that's okay. We'll deal with it later. It's fine.
Yeah, that's going to be another podcast.
So being in Puerto Rico, we're in the water.
Yes.
We're swimming.
And I have my period. And I have, at this point, I am like probably 13 years old. I have never used a tampon in my life. Ever. And this is also the time, I don't really know my anatomy that well at this point in my life either. I've never looked there before. I've never felt there before. It's just been there. And so we're trying to go to the beach. I'm having a meltdown because I don't want to wear a tampon. I've never worn it before, but we have to go to the beach. I have to be in my swimsuit. I've never.
Well, I gave you the option to stay back at the house if you wanted to, because you didn't want to wear a tampon, and you were throwing a fit because you wanted to go to the beach, but you didn't want to wear a tampon. And I was like, well, you can't really go swimming without one because you'll get blood everywhere. And you were throwing a fit and you were hysterical. And then
finally we come to the very teary-eyed, hysterical crying conclusion that I'm gonna put one in. I cannot for the life of me find where to put this thing in. Cannot find it whatsoever. I'm even more hysterical now because I'm trying to do this. It's not working. It hurts. It's not going well. So finally, Mom convinces me to let her put it in for me. Because she's my mom. She's changed my diaper before. It's okay.
You know, you're a mom when.
Like Morgan had even had a mirror right in front of her to try and assist her.
I had a mirror, like a normal bathroom mirror, but that doesn't help me down there.
She didn't have a handheld mirror.
No. Yeah. And so for the next like year and a half, I then had to use a handheld mirror to find where to put it because I had no idea. Because I kept telling her like, I don't think I have a hole. And Mom's like, no, trust me, honey, you have one. It's okay. You have one. It's there.
Oh,
and after
Morgan.
that, I only had to do it that one time, and then you had it figured out the whole rest of the trip.
Used a mirror.
Yeah, I used a mirror for like a year after that.
So when I was growing up, and still to this day, this is segue into a new story, I am probably the clumsiest person alive. Not so much anymore, but I was very, very clumsy. Like I would always spill my drink everywhere, all over the floor. I would trip over my own feet. I've been 5'5" since I was in 5th grade. I've been how tall I am now since 5th grade. So I very quickly had to accommodate being taller than everyone else. And then high school, I was normal. But so my grandparents, my mom's parents, took us to the mountains in North Carolina to go skiing. And Morgan and I had never been skiing before. And so when we went skiing, we did the bunny slope and we learned how to ski and everything was great.
Pizza, French fry.
Yeah, pizza, French fries, right? To learn how to stop and go. And we were skiing. And did you fall first or did I fall first?
It depends on what fall. Because
There were multiple falls. We fell a lot. So there was one point where your skis are not supposed to come off, right? I was under the impression that when you go skiing, your skis don't come off. They stick to your boots and that's it.
Yes.
So Morgan is skiing.
On the big slope now.
Yeah, on the normal slope. Like we had to take the lift up. And she's skiing and she falls and her ski comes flying off and smacks her in the nose. Mm-hmm. So then she was done skiing for the rest of the day because she had a bloody nose and she was in pain and she's like, I'm not doing that again. So then I go down the big slope and I fall to the point where both my skis come off and I slide on my back into the woods. So I didn't have, you know how like some snowsuits have the overalls that you wear? We just had snow pants and a jacket. We didn't have like a suit. So I slid into the woods where there wasn't any snow and I had cuts from the twigs and branches all up my back. And we had only been skiing for like a few hours, if I remember.
It wasn't that long into the trip.
Yeah. So like we both go back and we're like, all right, we're done. That's it.
Hot cocoa.
Yeah. And so I think we had like gone tubing and stuff and we did other things for the rest of the trip, but I don't quite remember if we had continued to ski after that. And I have not been skiing since.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of skiing. I don't do well with it.
But I still have my little Sugar Mountain keychain and the sticker from going skiing. I still have it.
Any of this.
Those are fun. Those were fun times. Mm-hmm. You guys got to do a lot of fun things as kids.
We did.
Yeah. Our trip to Hershey, we got to stay in that fancy Hershey hotel.
And it smelled like chocolate.
The whole town smells like chocolate.
It's so great.
And then they would leave Hershey Kisses on your pillow.
Every time, and every time you turned around, they were handing you chocolate. Like, what's better than that?
It's like my paradise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They also had like a breakfast with cartoons kind of thing going on as well. So we got to watch like Tom and Jerry or Looney Tunes while we were eating breakfast.
Yep.
And then whenever they'd bring you the bill, there would be chocolate on the tray with the bill. So like I said, every time you turned around, they were handing you chocolate.
Mm-hmm. That was a fun trip.
That was.
I met a Hershey
We didn't get to do things like that very often, like stay at fancy hotels or.
Yeah, like when we went to Disney, we stayed at like a motel.
But you got to go to
Disney.
Yeah, I know, exactly. Disney's expensive, so.
Yeah.
That was a fun trip, too.
I remember going and seeing, like, a Bug's Life, like, show. And, like, at the end, the seats, like, at the end, they like, crawl away, right? But the seats made it feel like they were crawling under your seat, and it was really interesting.
And then I remember also going to the Stitch show.
Yes, and he burps in your face.
I smelled that smell for the rest of the day. For the rest of the day, I could smell Stitch's burp.
Ew.
Yeah, it was not pleasant.
That's all the time we have for today. We just want to say thank you so much for joining us wherever you're listening. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe. And we would love if you were on Apple Podcasts to give us a 5-star rating. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And if you have any advice or questions or topic ideas, you can email us at bestfamilyontheblock@gmail.com. And we can't wait to see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.